Hey there, Mikey's Crew. It's your old pal Michael, and welcome sports fans also to another edition of Sports Talk. Today we are going to be talking about college football, what happened last week in Michigan and Western Michigan, and some other surprises and disappointments from over the weekend. Plus, a couple of coaches actually got fired. Two head coaches and one defensive coordinator. We'll talk about that. Also talk about the NFL. We'll recap the scores from the games this past weekend. We'll also preview the upcoming college football and NFL weekend. Talk a little bit about the Detroit Tigers and how their playoff hopes are now starting to fade into the distance. But first, we got to talk about this. Over the weekend, on Sunday, you may have heard Marlins pitcher Jose Fernandez died in a boating accident. He was only 24 years old. This guy was a budding star in Major League Baseball. Was the Marlins star pitcher for their team. He had been to the All-Star game before. He was a great player. He was really up and coming, had a great career in front of him. And unfortunately, his life was taken tragically in a boating accident early Sunday morning. Fernandez was a player who loved the game of baseball, loved spreading that joy around to others, not just his teammates, but others around Major League Baseball as well. And, Major League Baseball, they did a great thing on Sunday. They held a moment of silence in each stadium a game was being played before the game. The Chicago Cubs, in fact, actually made a Fernandez jersey, a Fernandez Cubs jersey. They had that in the dugout all game. They had up on the scoreboard where the Marlins were supposed to play the Braves on Sunday. They actually had number 16 up on the scoreboard. I don't think he was supposed to be the starter Sunday, but they just had him up there in memory. And then yesterday, when the Marlins played on Monday night, everybody wore number 16 to honor Fernandez. As you can tell, his influence was great among his teammates, among Major League Baseball in general. He was definitely, like I said, an up-and-coming star. He will greatly be missed by everybody who enjoyed the game of baseball. They were doing a story about him also on ESPN Sunday, and they showed the pregame ceremony before the game when the Marlins were playing at Fort Bragg earlier this year, and Fernandez whipped out his phone and recorded the helicopters that had come flying in because he wanted to capture that moment, and then he ended up posting that to social media to share with everybody, and he was so happy to be part of that game. So Jose Fernandez, 24, tragically dies in a boating accident. He will definitely be missed. And the other story that came out late Sunday was Arnold Palmer, legendary golfer, has also passed away due to heart problems. Palmer was 87 years old and was one of the greatest golfers of all time. His influence can be felt around the game today. He hosted the Bay Hill Invitational. He has influenced many golfers throughout his playing career. Had a great rivalry with not only Jack Nicklaus but Gary Player as well, and that was a friendly rivalry. It wasn't one of those mean rivalries. But he could be seen around Augusta National. Each year the Masters came around. He ended up, after he stopped playing at Augusta, he became the honorary player to tee off along with Nicklaus and Palmer before the start to start the Masters off. Palmer, of course, was known as the King. He had a bunch of followers who came up with the name Arnie's Army. He won 7 majors all time. He had a very unique and powerful swing. And, of course, even if golf fans don't know this, he, of course, has the drink named after him, the Arnold Palmer, which is, a mix of iced tea and lemonade. And that's a great drink, too, by the way. And, I could play as Arnold Palmer in the Tiger Woods video game so you can see his influence there, where it's like, he was that great of a golfer to include him in a game. So a legendary golfer has passed away. Arnold Palmer, 87 years old. All right, let's move on to talk about college football now and this past weekend. Western Michigan took on Georgia Southern, and Michigan took on Penn State. But before we get to that, let's talk about some of the other games as well that ended up happening over the weekend that may have been, some shockers, some surprises, and some good games that were played. How about Stanford? Came back to defeat UCLA 22-13, and that score is a little bit farther apart than what it was. UCLA was up in this game 13-9. Stanford scored a late touchdown with around 30 seconds left to go to take the lead. On the ensuing UCLA possession, Josh Rosen gets hit, fumbles the ball, and Stanford returns it for a touchdown to practically end the game right there. And that's how Stanford ended up winning that game 22-13. What I thought was a big shocker was Wisconsin taking on Michigan State. I thought Wisconsin may have sleptwalked through the game against Georgia State. Michigan State had a huge win, and we put that in quotation marks now, against Notre Dame, because Notre Dame doesn't look as great as what we think either, and we'll talk about that coming up. Wisconsin rolled to a 30-6 victory over Michigan State over the weekend. Michigan State now drops number 18 in the latest poll. So not good for the Spartans. Wisconsin is now into the top 10. I believe they're number 8. And, Hornibrook looked good. Michigan State did have a couple of mistakes in the game that led to 14 Wisconsin points. One was a bobbled punt that, Michigan State just pounced on at their own 5. And then Scott fumbled the ball away, and Musso returned a fumble return for Wisconsin for a touchdown. So 30-6, the Badgers won. Washington won in overtime over Arizona, 35-28. How about Texas A&M taking down Arkansas, 45-24? I think we can kind of say A&M is for real this year. Ole Miss smacks down Georgia, who was undefeated, 45-14. Ole Miss, probably the best two-loss team in the country. In fact, if they hadn't blown leads against Alabama and Florida State, Ole Miss would probably be up near the number 1 ranking right now. I would probably stick them behind Louisville. If they were undefeated, you'd probably have Ohio State 1, Louisville 2. Although Louisville might not be as high because Florida State would have had that loss, but maybe they would have been. And I would probably say Ole Miss is at least in the top 5. Tennessee, how about that? They finally snap a 11-game losing streak against Florida. They win 38-28. They fell behind 21-3 in this game at the half, was stormed back to win in the second half. In fact, they outscored Florida 35-7 in the second half. Auburn, an 18-13 winner over LSU. Didn't even score a touchdown in this game. LSU in the final seconds thought they had the game-winning touchdown to win this game 19-18. However, LSU did not get the ball off in time. There was a penalty. The ball was reset. They did not snap it right away. The second ticked off the clock, and after further review, they determined LSU did not get the snap off, so they gave Auburn the victory, and LSU then promptly the next day fired Coach Les Miles. So LSU now looking for a new coach. And the whole story is last year they wanted to fire Les Miles near the end of the season. They won their final game against Texas A&M, and who they wanted to bring in as coach was Jimbo Fisher. He didn't want to leave Florida State. So they decided to hold a press conference and say, we're keeping Les Miles, which we all know the people that held that press conference didn't really want to keep him at all. And you could tell after this 2-2 start, they're like, finally, we got to get rid of him. They went up to Lambeau Field, played Wisconsin and lost, and now they've lost to Auburn, a team that isn't going to be that great, I think, in the SEC at all. So Les Miles is out as head coach of LSU. I'm sure he'll get a job somewhere else. But, he's kind of at fault here, too, because he didn't change that inept offense from last season. He didn't get rid of Cam Cameron, which a lot of people said he should have done, and brought in a new offensive coordinator. So, it's kind of Les Miles' fault as well. And we all remember, too, when Rich Rodriguez got fired from Michigan, Les Miles maybe was rumored to come to Michigan, be the next head coach. Boy, am I glad he didn't come. Thank goodness Jim Harbaugh's there because, well, actually, it was rumored then. And it was, actually I forgot because Brady Hoke was, head coach. I didn't really forget that. But we all kind of thought, Les Miles could be head coach after Rich Rod and maybe Brady Hoke, and it never happened, thank goodness. He'll find a job somewhere else, I'm sure. Ed Orgeron takes over as head coach at LSU. Nebraska beat Northwestern 24-13. Iowa barely escaped Rutgers. They won 14-7. What is up with Iowa? I don't know. Central Michigan finally has their first loss this season. They lost to Virginia 49-35. They were behind 28-0 in this game, tied it again at 28, then got outscored 21 points to make it 49-28 before they scored another touchdown to make it 49-35 in that game. How about Northern Illinois? They're 0-4. They lost to Western Illinois 28-23, so Northern Illinois not looking good this year at all. Here's what I'm talking about here. Duke. Duke defeats Notre Dame 38-35 to drop Notre Dame to 1-3 on the year. How about Notre Dame's 3 losses? They gave up over 50 points against Texas. They gave up 36 to Michigan State and now 38 to Duke, which has led to defensive coordinator Brian Van Gorder to get fired. So he's gone. Is Brian Kelly on the hot seat too? You kind of got to wonder. Although this is really Brian Kelly's first struggles at Notre Dame, if you think about it. I think Notre Dame could probably maybe rally to a 6-6 record. I don't think Brian Kelly would get fired if he had a bad season, but you never know. It is Notre Dame, and they always are looking for that standard of excellence that they always had back in the day. But you know what? Tides are changing college football. You're not going to go undefeated, lose one game every single year. And you got to kind of wonder, did Notre Dame already reach the apex where they got to the college football playoff and I don't know. No, I think that was the BCS title game. I think that was the year before the college football playoff. Yeah. And they got smacked around by Alabama. So you kind of got to wonder at this point, did they reach the top and now have just fallen completely off? We'll have to see how the season really continues for them. How about Colorado goes on the road, defeats Oregon 41-38, makes it where, they were competitive against Michigan, not look so bad after all. If Colorado keeps winning, that will strengthen Michigan's strength of schedule, no doubt. Like I said, Western Michigan won. We'll talk about them in a few minutes. But let's quickly run down the Big Ten scoreboard as well to give you the rest of the scores from them over the past weekend and also the Mid-American Conference scoreboard also. So in the rest of the Big Ten, Minnesota defeated Colorado State 31-24. Purdue came back to defeat Nevada 24-14. And Wake Forest took down Indiana 33-28. So Wake Forest, not too bad, I think, this year. What does Indiana have to do now? Well, that's a good question. They got Michigan State coming to town. If they can score some points, they might have a chance. Michigan State's offense doesn't look that good so far. In the Mid-American Conference, Eastern Michigan defeats Wyoming 27-24. The Eagles, they're 3-1. We don't really know how good they are. They haven't played that great a competition. However, they're 3-1 still. Alabama shuts out Kent State 48-0. That's Nick Saban's former alma mater. Ohio takes down Gardner-Webb 37-21. Appalachian State survives Akron 45-38. Miami of Ohio, great effort against Cincinnati, but could not win. They lost 27-20. Ball State defeats Florida Atlantic 31-27. In overtime, Buffalo gets their first win of the year as they took down undefeated Army 23-20. They scored 14 fourth quarter points, by the way, to come back too. So they scored the last 17 points of that game. And boy, this one's a shocker. Bowling Green must not be that great this year. They were smacked around by Memphis 77-3. Wow, what a trouncing they got there. So let's talk about Michigan now, as they defeated Penn State over the weekend 49-10. And, going into this game, I was a little worried because of what happened against Colorado. They gave up some yards. They gave up big passes. Is Penn State going to be able to come in and maybe run the ball all over Michigan? Are they going to be able to pass it? Is this going to be a closer game than what we thought? I kind of thought that the 17-18 point favorite over Penn State might not have been warranted, that the game might have been closer than that. But Michigan right away proved, we're here, we're going to dominate. They really worked on things this weekend as they shut down Penn State. Penn State couldn't move the ball through the air or on the ground really the whole game. Michigan played a great game on the defensive side of the ball. They also played a great game on the offensive side of the ball as well, as they did a great job. And they got their running game established in this game too, might I add. They couldn't get it established really against Colorado. We were worried coming into Big Ten play. Could they get a running game established? Finally, the Wolverines got one. Can they continue that this week against Wisconsin, which looks to be a tougher matchup than maybe than what we thought? But here's the thing. Michigan could come in and trounce Wisconsin, and that could make Michigan State look worse than what they really are. It is going to be a down year for the Spartans, I believe. I thought maybe after last week, Michigan doesn't have a chance against them the way they looked against Colorado or against Ohio State, but they might have that shot after all. But, I mean, here we are. We're talking about how they have that shot again. Could we be talking next week where, oh, gosh, I don't know if they have that shot or not. It changes from week to week, I'll tell you that, how we think Michigan can do against their future opponents. But I think it's looking better against maybe Michigan State than what it did maybe a couple of weeks ago when, oh, my gosh, they beat Notre Dame. Michigan struggles against Colorado. And, by the way, Wilton Speight, when he was under pressure in this game, definitely looked like he looked better. He could get out of it. He didn't throw it up into double and triple coverage. He hit a check down receiver or he would throw it away. I thought he did look better there. Wilton Speight was 21-34 for 189 yards and 1 touchdown in this game. Running-wise, this is where I said Michigan really got it going. They had 326 yards on the ground, 107 coming from Davion Smith in a touchdown. Higdon, 9 carries, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Isaac, 11 carries, 74 yards and a touchdown. And Chris Evans, 8 carries, 56 yards and a touchdown. And Khalid Hill had the other touchdown. 6 rushing touchdowns from the Wolverines, 1 passing touchdown. Talk about dominance. The passing touchdown was caught by, boy, I don't know how I can say this name right. Asiasi, I think is how you say it. He had his only catch on the day. Darboh had 7 catches for 44 yards, and Chesson only had 1 catch on the day for 18, but 4 for 42. So that's what Michigan did on the offensive side of the ball. Jabril Peppers, by the way, almost took the first punt return back of the game for a touchdown, which would have been amazing if he had been able to do that. That was really the only time he got a punt return. The rest of the game, he fair caught it, or Penn State had him wrapped up right away. And Michigan didn't even have to attempt a field goal in this game. They just had kicked 7 extra points. So let's look at the team stats now, as you know what the Wolverines did on the offensive side of the ball. They were 11 of 16 on third down conversions. Fantastic. Penn State, only 2 of 12. Michigan had 515 total yards to Penn State's 191. Penn State, by the way, only 70 yards rushing on the day. They had 2 penalties. Penn State did. Michigan had 7. That needs to get cleaned up. And Michigan was able to force 2 turnovers also. Michigan controlled the clock, 35 minutes, 49 seconds to Penn State's 24-11. And Michigan had 25 first downs to Penn State's 12. So let's talk about this weekend as they are going to take on the Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin comes in ranked 8th. Michigan is ranked 4th or 5th, depending on what poll you really look at. Michigan, is coming into this game as a 10.5-point favorite, so they obviously, the experts still do not think Wisconsin is going to perform that well. It looks like they don't really respect Wisconsin, maybe either. The thing is, Wisconsin is a pretty good team. I think they're gonna perform just fine, really, in this game. But I think Michigan is going to edge them out in the end. I think it's going to be kind of a low-scoring game unless Michigan really blows them out, and which could happen. We kind of thought last year when Michigan played Northwestern, we thought that was going to be a low-scoring game. Instead, Michigan shut them out 38-0. This could be a low-scoring game here, and Michigan might not shut out Wisconsin. Maybe they roll them more than what we think that they do. We'll have to see. But the thing is, the key is going to be in this game, get pressure on Hornibrook. Freshman quarterback coming in for Wisconsin. He's looked good so far. Get some pressure on him. Let's see how he does then. Will he throw it up into double coverage? Will he make a bad throw and throw an interception? That's what they got to do. They've also got to shut down Wisconsin's running game, stop them. Michigan's got to control the clock, continue their success running. Wilton Speight, too. No turnovers on the game. Don't throw an interception. Don't fumble the ball away. Michigan should do okay in this game. I think they should win. I'm going to project the score is going to be 28-17. Michigan wins it. So basically, I'm saying that they would cover the spread. I think they could. If Michigan's defense comes in and just plays lights out like they did against Penn State and shuts Wisconsin down, You could see a game maybe where it's, instead 35-10, 35-3. It's a possibility. I mean, you never know what could happen. But that's my prediction. I'll go 28-17. Michigan ends up winning. Now let's talk about Western Michigan. They are going to take on Central Michigan this upcoming weekend. But first, let's talk about their game against Georgia Southern. This was the game that I had on the schedule that I was very worried about, because Georgia Southern likes to run an option-type offense, and last year Western didn't stop it. They gave up over 400 yards to Georgia Southern last year, went on the road and lost 43-17. Not a good game. This year, of course, Georgia Southern's coming to Kalamazoo. Western has had a year to prepare for this. They've been able to study their, game tape against Georgia Southern from last season and study the way Georgia Southern's played this year. So I thought they had a good shot to win, but I was still worried, because you never know what if, you can't stop them. They did. They stopped them. They gave up they did give up over 200 yards on the ground to Georgia Southern. But, and that might sound bad, but when you're facing a team that's just rushing the ball, it's not as bad as what you think. So 202 yards total, and the longest run Georgia Southern had on the evening was a 13-yard run. Not bad, really. The thing that worried me was that Western did give up a lot in the passing game. Yes, they did only give up 168 yards passing, but their starting quarterback, Upshaw, was 4 of 6 for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's what worried me, is that Georgia Southern really scored their points through the air, not on the ground, really. That's what really worried me coming out of this game, seeing those stats. Western did put up a lot of points. They did put up 49. Darius Phillips, by the way, was fantastic. Had a 100-yard kick return for a touchdown. Had a 70-yard interception return for a touchdown. Awesome game by him. By the way, Western forced 4 turnovers in this game. That's fantastic as well. That's something they need to do against Central. Force the turnovers, they could win that game. Zach Terrell on the evening, 18-27 for 270 yards, 4 touchdown passes. Jamari Bogan, 26 carries, 104 yards, and 1 touchdown. He was the main guy on the ground. Jarvion Franklin actually only had 3 carries on the evening for 6 yards. I kind of wonder if Western's going to maybe go with Bogan for most of the carries. We'll have to see. With Levante Bellamy getting injured last week, and I don't think he was back for this game, you kind of got to wonder, are they going to stick with maybe just Bogan? Because if they go with Bogan and Franklin goes down, or Bogan were to go down, you only have that one back. And to tell you the truth, I think Bogan kind of is the better back out of the two. He gets I think, a lot more yards per carry than what Franklin does. Receiving, Michael Henry, 8 receptions, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a big evening. Henry did. I think he's really starting to stand out as a second receiver. Corey Davis, 6 receptions, 1 touchdown. Carrington Thompson, 2 receptions, 37 yards, and 1 touchdown as well. Ferguson also had an interception for the Broncos. And, of course, we talked about Darius Phillips and his kick return for a touchdown. Butch Hampton did miss 1 field goal in the game. And Coleman did a good job punting for Western, as he averaged 45 yards per punt. So let's talk about the team stats now for the Broncos. They did not actually outpossess Georgia Southern in this game. Georgia Southern did 31 minutes, 14 seconds, and 28:46 for Western. Western had 407 total yards to Georgia Southern's 370. Western 6 of 13 on third down. Georgia Southern 7 of 12. Got to stop the teams a little bit better than that on third down, I got to say. Western, 137 yards on the ground to 202 for Georgia Southern. 7 penalties, 68 yards to 5 for 39 for Georgia Southern. They did have the 4 turnovers, which really dealt them in. And the teams were evens on first downs almost. Western had 21 to Georgia Southern's 20. So, with that being said, let's look ahead to this Saturday. Mount Pleasant. Western Michigan coming in 4-0. They start MAC play. This is really the last challenge that Western could have before they face Toledo. If they beat Central, I am telling you, Western could run the table up to that Toledo game and be 11-0 going into it. Not joking around here when I say that either. because Northern Illinois, 0-4, doesn't look like the Northern Illinois of the past. And Western's other opponents, they got Ball State, they got Akron, they got Buffalo, they got Eastern Michigan in there, and I know I'm missing an opponent as well. And Kent State, I think that was the other opponent. None of those should really challenge Western. You never know, but they really shouldn't. That's why I'm saying going into this, Western Michigan really could look like a dominant force the rest of the season. It's, and the thing is, Central lost last week to Virginia, and maybe they're hanging their heads a little bit because of that. But I can't think they're hanging them too much just because of the fact, they've got a rivalry game coming up. It's going to be in their home stadium, and it's going to be at 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network also. And what really worries me about this game is that fact right there, that they're going to be playing at night. I don't like that fact. I think it's going to give an advantage to Central Michigan a little bit because night games always kind of the crowds get fired up a little bit more. And as a player, you're sitting around all day, you really want to just get the game played. And I really thought this was going to be a noon kickoff. It was going to be on ESPN, but instead it's going to be on CBS Sports Network. I'm sure Western will be fine with it. Like I said, they're going to be sitting around anxious, but the way PJ Fleck coaches up this team, I don't think we have anything to really worry about there. But the thing that, the keys to the game are no turnovers. Western cannot turn the ball over. In fact, they haven't turned the ball over this season yet. That's a great stat right there. 4 games in the season and you have 0 turnovers that you've had. That's great. Western's forced 9 so far, by the way. Keep forcing those turnovers. That's going to be the key in this game. Force the turnovers. Get the running game going. Control the game clock. Have Bogan and Franklin run around. Zach Terrell can scramble around too. Hit those key passes. Get long drives established against Central Michigan. If you do that, Western can win the game. Keep their defense off the field. Keep Central's defense on the field. Western, I feel like, can stop the run. I don't think Spalding's going to be able to get a lot of yards rushing against Western. Cooper Rush, though, he's a pretty good quarterback for Central. And the thing that worries me, like I said, Georgia Southern was able to beat Western with the passing game, it seemed like, more than the running game. That's what worries me coming into this game. Western, it seemed like during the year, had given up a lot of the short passes underneath. They did that to Northwestern. They did that to Illinois. Western's really gotten beat. They got beat before this game on one pass, and that was a trick play that Illinois ran. They didn't really get beat big otherwise, besides the passes against that Georgia Southern had. Now, maybe Western is maybe more concerned about the run in that game. If they say, okay, if they beat us with the pass, let them beat us because they're not going to be able to beat us all night with it. But Central Michigan, I'm going to tell you what, can do well in the passing game. And Western's defense can't get beat deep on the pass. They can't give up a lot of the short passes either. They've got to contain the players. Force Central into 3rd and longs, and then bring the pressure on Cooper Rush. That's what I'm talking about. Or drop back and play good coverage. You mix it up. That's what Western have to do. Mix it up with pressure and coverage in this game. And I feel like that they can walk off this field as winners over Central Michigan, go to 5-0. And I'm not saying that every game the rest of the way is going to be easy. I'm just saying that they're going to have a good chance to win every game up till that Toledo game, which will be the key showdown to probably who goes not only to the Mid-American Conference title game, but for an undefeated regular season for Western Michigan, which would be fantastic. By the way, last time Western started 5-0 was 1994. I don't know if they've ever started 6-0. We'll have to see. But that's, in the future. We got to get to 5-0 first. Focus on Central Michigan. Torpedo the Chips this weekend. Take them down. Row the boat through Central. That's all I really got to say about that. Western goes in as a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Last time they were a 3.5-point favorite on the road, you know what they did to Illinois. However, Illinois is not as good as what Central is. I think Central could go down and beat Illinois, to tell you the truth. This is going to be a close game. Obviously, it's a rivalry game. I say Western wins this one. Let's say 35-31 Western wins this game. That's what I think the final score is going to be. I think their defense will give up some passes, but I think Western will be able to at least control the ball for some time of the game. Central may score a couple of late touchdowns to maybe try to rally in this game. Like teams tend to do sometimes near the end of the games. So that's what I think the projection is going to be for the weekend. Other games to maybe watch for over the weekend. How about Friday? Stanford against Washington. Number 7 Stanford against number 10 Washington. That should be a fantastic game. Toledo is at BYU. Big game for Toledo. It's their last big game before MAC play starts. And we'll have to see if they enter that 4-0. Notre Dame takes on Syracuse at noon. Notre Dame has to rebound big time or else they could be looking at a long, long season. Other games, Rutgers takes on Ohio State. Ohio State should dominate. Can Northwestern go on the road and beat Iowa, a team that's looking pretty sluggish? We'll have to see. Duke's playing Virginia. Can Duke keep their momentum from Notre Dame alive? Colorado takes on Oregon State. Colorado could move to 4-1 on the year with a victory. Tennessee takes on Georgia. Can they keep their momentum alive that they had against Florida from last week? We'll have to wait and see on that one. Like I said, Michigan takes on Wisconsin, 3:30 on ABC, by the way, for that game. Minnesota, can they remain undefeated? They take on Penn State on the road. That's going to be on BTN at 3:30. And any other key games coming up? Oh, yeah, there is one big one. Louisville, number 3 Louisville at number 5 Clemson, an 8 o'clock game on ABC. What a fantastic game that should be. Of course, I'll be watching Western Central, so I'll be keeping up on it, keeping tabs on this game. Can Lamar Jackson continue his success, or will Deshaun Watson and Clemson shut him down? Although it's more like the defense would shut him down. I don't think Deshaun Watson will go out and tackle Lamar Jackson. Michigan State is at Indiana. That's at 8 o'clock on BTN. That Louisville-Clemson game is at 8 o'clock on ABC, by the way. So those are the big games they're going to be coming up over the weekend. Let's now move on, talk about the NFL. We'll just kind of run down the scores from this past weekend for that, and then we'll move on and we'll quickly talk about the Detroit Tigers and their fading playoff hopes. So the NFL this past week, Denver, they were able to go on the road and defeat Cincinnati. And the Lions, unfortunately, could not win on the road at Green Bay. Of course, how hard is it to win at Green Bay? For gosh sakes, the Lions could not win there since since 1991, and they did it last season where they won. Last time they won 2 straight was 90 and 91. So if you thought they were going to win, you're crazy. Now, they did get down 31-3 in that game, and they did give a valiant effort to come back, but they could not win. They scored a touchdown before halftime. I said they had momentum on their side. They obviously did, because they came out, made it 31-17, but then the Packers made it 34-17, and then it was 34-20. The Lions scored a touchdown to make it 34-27, but could not stop Green Bay. Green Bay ended up getting like a first down on an Aaron Rodgers 3rd and 10 scramble. Otherwise, Lions could have got the ball back and been able to possibly go down, tie it, or go for 2 and try to win it. But they never got that opportunity. So the Patriots beat the Texans 27-0 last Thursday night with Jacoby Brissett at the helm. I guess the Patriots can win with anybody at the helm, really. Tom Brady, I thought, would come back and have trouble getting the Patriots to the playoffs. He might not now. Bills defeat the Cardinals 33-18. Cardinals haven't won in Buffalo since 1971. Raiders go on the road to defeat the Titans 17-10. The Dolphins defeat the Browns 30-24. The Browns missed 3 field goals in this game. That game was in overtime, by the way. They had a chance, they couldn't do it. Ravens defeat the Jaguars 19-17. The Jags 0-3, a team that I kind of thought would be a little bit better this year. Broncos, like I said, go on the road to defeat the Bengals 29-17. How about Trevor Siemian on the day? Threw 4 touchdown passes. Denver looked fantastic in this game. Early on, they did give up a touchdown against Cincinnati. They trailed 7-3, but they went in the locker room up 16-14. Late turnovers by Cincinnati hurt. Just Trevor Siemian looks fantastic now. I think he's finally getting the hang of the Broncos offense and playing in the NFL. Broncos look great. Could they win the Super Bowl again this year? We'll have to see. How about the Vikings? defeat the Panthers 22-10. The Panthers are now 1-2. Redskins get their first win as they defeat the Giants 29-27. Rams hold off the Buccaneers 37-32. Seahawks defeat the 49ers 37-18. However, Russell Wilson was injured in this game. The Chiefs hold the Jets without a touchdown, defeat them 24-3. Colts come back and defeat the Chargers 26-22 to get their first win. The Eagles dominated the Steelers 34-3. On Sunday night, Cowboys defeat the Bears 31-17. And the Falcons come away with a Monday night victory over the Saints 45-32. The Saints do not look that great at all. Of course, they don't improve that defense, they're not going to look good. And so far this year, they really haven't improved that defense whatsoever. So let's move on to Week 4 now. Talk about some of the games coming up this weekend. Thursday night, the Bengals play the Dolphins. Colts are at the Jaguars. Titans at the Texans. I'm predicting a Texans win there. Browns at the Redskins. Seahawks at the Jets. Bills at the Patriots. Panthers at the Falcons. Raiders at the Ravens. Lions are at the Bears. I think the Lions can win a game against the Bears. I think maybe the score would be 24-13. Lions win that one. Broncos are at the Buccaneers. I think Simeon gets another victory. I think Denver wins this game by a score of 41-17. Yes, I'm predicting a big blowout in this one. Cardinals, you got to remember, beat the Bucs by a big score. Rams at the Cardinals, Saints at the Chargers, and Cowboys at the 49ers. Your Sunday night game, Chiefs at the Steelers. Monday night, Giants at the Vikings. So let's just move on really quickly, talk about Major League Baseball now, talk about the Detroit Tigers. Their playoff hopes are starting to fade. I said last week they really needed to defeat the Royals. They at least needed to win 2 games in that series. It looked like on Saturday they were going to win. They were 1 out away, and they end up letting the Royals score 4 runs, and the Tigers lost that game 7-4. Sunday, they gave up 4 runs in the first inning. Matt Boyd didn't even record an out before he got yanked from the game. And what ended up happening was the Tigers just got demolished. Well, they didn't get demolished, I should say. They did try to come back and win. But, they scored 9 runs and could not win that game. How sad. I think it was 12-9 they ended up losing. It was an awful day. I mean, it's like you think the Tigers are going to come back and, yeah, they have a chance. Oh, they gave up a run. Yeah, they have a chance. Oh, they gave up another run. It's like, are you kidding me? Get some pitching. That's what the Tigers have to work on in the offseason. Get some freaking pitching. And now they're playing Cleveland, which, they're going to have to win every game in this series. Now they lost last night 7-4. Buck Farmer started. What do you expect when you start Buck Farmer? The guy's terrible. He hasn't shown anything in the majors as a starter or as a reliever. He did do well with the Whitecaps, but they brought him up too fast, in my opinion. And they've ruined Buck Farmer. Ruined him. Yes, I know I sound like I'm going on a tirade right now. But I'll tell you what do you expect? The Indians now have clinched the American League Central with that victory last night, by the way. The Tigers are going to have to hope for a miracle to make the playoffs, I think. They're 1.5 back. Saturday, before the loss, they were a half game up on Baltimore. Now they're 1.5 games back. They need a lot of help. They're on a 3-game losing streak right now. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They've got to get off of it, too. They've got to get off this streak if they have any shot. I practically am going to lose my voice, I think, from screaming there. They ended up... Hold on. My screen just froze up, so forgive me for a second as I try to scroll here. So against the Twins, they swept them. I said they'd win 3, so they did better than what I thought there. But they needed to at least win 2 against the Royals. They won 1. 1 against the Royals. Jeez, I'm just going on a tirade right now, as you can tell. But they got the Indians here, And then they've got Atlanta, and then that's it. That's it. And the season's over. So here you go. Tuesday against Cleveland, 7:10 start. Wednesday, a 7 o'clock start. Thursday, a 1 o'clock start. All home games, and then you got 3 on the road against Atlanta. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 7:35, 7:10, and a 3:10 start to end the season on Sunday. So the Tigers really have got to win their next 6 games to even have a shot. They've got to win these all. And to tell you the truth, I don't think they are. I think they might sneak 1 win against Cleveland, and maybe they'll sweep the Braves. Maybe. But they'll still end up outside the playoffs because of that. You got Verlander pitching today. This is a good chance to win. Fulmer on Wednesday, another good chance. Norris on Thursday, you might have a chance there. Boyd on Friday, he's got to be better than what he was on Sunday, but they might have a chance. He hasn't been bad he's been pretty good at times. Zimmerman on Saturday, we'll have to see what Jordan Zimmerman are going to get. The good one that we had during the first part of the season, or the one that we've had recently that's given up a lot of runs. And then Verlander to finish up on Sunday. Let's hope. Let's hope the Tigers can win these 6 games and get to the playoffs. I don't see it happening, though. I don't see them winning the wild card. We'll have to wait and see. So thank you once again for tuning in for this long edition of Sports Talk. Post any comments you have about any team I talked about this week in the comment section below, or any comments or predictions you have about any other team across sports. I'll definitely respond to those comments. I love talking to anybody about sports. You can tell how passionate I am just by talking about any single sport here. Baseball, college football, NFL, whatever it is. So thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my channel for more content. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. The links are in the description below. Drop a thumbs up on this video if you did enjoy watching it. And until next time, this is Michael Loudon, over and out. Mikey's crew, you guys are the best. Thanks for tuning in for another edition of Sports Talk. Take care.